Today we're going to look at a make scenario we built recently that creates quotes in Xero after a FreshBooks estimate is created. This was for a client who used both systems. Some people will probably use one or the other, but for them they enjoyed both systems for different reasons, so they brought us in to connect them and make sure that FreshBooks was always synchronized in Xero and vice versa. I'm not going to use the real name of the company just for confidentiality, but let's call them tech investors. They're a sort of medium-sized tech consultancy that does both IT solutions and consulting services to a range of startups and larger enterprises. The reason that they were using both is that they use FreshBooks to create and manage estimates for their consulting projects. A lot of their clients, as you know, if you've probably worked in consulting before, they want detailed estimates before agreeing to the scope or the full SOW. FreshBooks has always allowed them to create the estimates pretty quickly, incorporating their pricing principles and frameworks into the estimates before sending them out. On the other hand, tech investors, like a lot of companies, uses Xero to manage the wider financial activities, including payroll, estimates, P&L reviews and sort of cash flows, plus expenditure tracking. So it is important once the project already starts out. The management team specifically likes Xero because of its reporting and its ability to sort of integrate with other tools that they use. So they didn't want to get rid of either system. They wanted to use them together. However, the estimates created in FreshBooks were key at the beginning, and they were winning more work because they were working with FreshBooks. And once the client approves the estimate, they need to make sure that the financial terms are visible, manageable, and available for the management team to see in Xero to make sure there's consistency and accuracy in the sort of the planning and forecasting stage. Historically, they sort of would do it a bit ad hoc. At the end of the month, they'd be like, we need to add these estimates into Xero. So they would, put it together. Sometimes they'd forget to do one. So there was a mismatch of data and an inaccuracy that meant the management team didn't get the most up-to-date information that they wanted. A, it was taking them time that the consulting team could be used to deliver or sell more work, and B, it was inaccurate. So what they wanted to do is create an automation that checks FreshBooks and once a day. It's not automatic, but check it once a day, and allows them to make sure that anything in FreshBooks that was created during that day is then added to Xero. The benefit of this was it saved time. So consulting, billed per hour. So every hour they're not spent delivering billable work is a cost against the business. So that was a big thing. But then also just knowing that the information was up to date was also crucial. With that in mind, let's take a look at what this automation looks like in the Make backend. As you can see, this has a number of routes that this could take because it had to be intelligent. If a client doesn't exist or if a person doesn't exist, it needs to be created before the estimate is added to Xero. Same thing for the item. If you're selling something new that you've quoted for in FreshBooks, you also need to make sure that exists in Xero. So if we come down here, it searches for new estimates that have happened. As I said, this runs at midnight, so searches for estimates that have taken place in the last 24 hours, then looks for the clients, looks for the related client in FreshBooks as well, comes through. If the item exists already, so if the item that the consultant has quoted for, then you search for the item. If the item does not exist, it searches for the item, creates the item, then comes down here, finds the item that was just created, comes through here, searches for the contact over here. So does this client already exist in Xero? If the contact does not exist, you create the contact. But if it does exist, it skips that, comes down here, searches for the contact, gets the contact, and creates the quote. So this is quite an interesting multi-step logic workflow that allows you to always make sure that this is synchronized. What it does show is that the data over here needs to be very accurate to make sure that it's coming through, because if you are selling the same thing over and over again, then you need to make sure that it has the same naming conventions every time. If not, you might get duplicated items, so you might be selling something that's the same, but it's called something different in the back end. So just something to keep in mind. As with anything, data in is as important as what the data out you're going to get. Any questions, let me know. And this blueprint is available on our website to download if you want to implement something similar in your business.